Imagine with me for just a minute that you found out one of your competitors just got a new patient this morning. And here's the key to that patient. That patient not only lived in your zip code, but they had the exact condition that you're known for treating. So why didn't they choose you? If this is you and you have a specialty practice, whether that's orthopedics or sports medicine or something like that, then you want to stay tuned because you want to find out why this is happening so you can stop it or get ahead of the curve and get those patients back from your competitors. If we haven't met yet, I'm Elisa Connor, and every week I show up to help specialty medical practices, not only with patient growth, but also to help them maximize their referrals and to ensure that the marketing dollars and the investment they're making into patient experience is actually getting them and keeping them patients. So if you are experiencing the situation that I just described, you're going to want to stay tuned because the world of buyers, and that includes medicine, is rapidly changing and AI has a lot to do with it. Most practice leaders think the way that new patients find out about you comes from one of two ways. One, they're searching online and they find you. Recently, I met with the CEO of a very well-known orthopedic center. And when I asked him, how do you think patients, let's walk through a scenario where a patient would be needing to come to your office. What would that look like? And I put him in the shoes because I wanted him to talk about how he would search for something. And the first words that came out of his mouth is like, I would search for orthopedic surgeon. I'm like, no, you wouldn't, because you don't even know that you need an orthopedic surgeon. And so if you're thinking that patients are coming directly to your website or they're searching for your specialty already, you're losing people from the get-go. And the fact of the matter is that most people don't speak your language. And so you have to think about the language you're using and the language that you're showing up with online and in other places to ensure that you're speaking their language. And this is where a lot of organizations get stuck, especially in the medical field. Now, I'm not casting blame because your specialty is medicine. Your specialty isn't marketing. Your specialty isn't sales. However, you need those two core things to be happening in your organization and be effective to draw in more patients. And the other thing that's kind of working against independent practices is you have private equity organizations that are going in and buying everything up, and they have more money than, let's just face it, God. So they can spend money on all of these things. They don't even blink about it. And so I want you to have the advantages that they already have without having to spend a lot of time and extra money thinking about how to implement that. If your mindset around new patients and patient growth is they search for us, they find our website, they fill out our form, or they fill out our schedule online link and they become a patient, you're missing some pretty important details along the way of how people are actually searching out practices, especially specialty medical practices. And one of the most important statistics that I found, I'm going to share with you, was that 46% of younger patients have no primary care provider. I wouldn't consider myself on the younger end, but I'm also that person because I don't go to the doctor. Like most people don't go to the doctor unless they need to. And so they're not searching or they're not getting referred from their primary doctor. And so the older generation that may be happening, but 46% is almost half. And so if you're not addressing those people and meeting them where they are, which is they're shopping around online. And where they're going to go is the person that shows up that says, hey, I can solve your problem the fastest and has the best reviews and has the most people saying, hey, they did a really great job. And so if you aren't addressing all of those factors and your online reputation isn't where your competitors is, where do you think they're going to go? Obviously, they're going to go to the competitor. And if you don't believe that, then let me give you a little wake-up call. They're going to the competitor. And so if your calendars aren't full, and you're wondering, like, we're spending all this money on marketing, we're spending all this time with developing referral partners and all of these other things, and nothing is working, it's because you're not meeting your patients where they are. It's no longer an option for you to not do that. And then to deliver them an exceptional experience beyond that is what's going to differentiate you from those PE companies. And the reason I say that is that they're busy throwing money out the door because they're busy adding every single person they can to get into their office, and everyone starts to feel like a cattle call. So what this is referred to is the zero-click journey, meaning these younger generation and even possibly Gen X may not ever even go to your website before they determine whether or not they're going to come and see you. The fact of the matter is they're getting their information from three different places. The first being AI, whether they're using ChatGPT or Claude or any number of other options, they're asking what's the best orthopedic surgeon, for example, in Denver, Colorado. And the answers that come up, that's where they're going to start their journey. And if those don't link anywhere, the next place they're going to do is scroll down the page and see who is the first top result or the Google listings that shows up for their specific need. And if at that point, they're then looking at the reviews. And so if we go back to the example, of the CEO that I was speaking to, and they're not starting where you think they're starting, how far do you think they're going to go into Google search results? Well, I have a saying that I heard a long time ago that I have always carried with me because it's so true. If you want to hide a dead body, put it on the second page of Google because nobody ever goes there. And so if your business isn't showing up one in that top list because your Google profile isn't optimized or you're not categorized correctly or you're not adding additional information regularly to Google, whatever it might be, they're not going to look for you and they're not going to go beyond that list. And even more so, if you're at the top of the list and you have a low rating, even if it's by 1 star, they're going to your competitor. And you have to answer all of those factors before they ever even consider you. So the first place they're going is AI. The second place they're going is Google, which is right down the page from the AI answer. And the third place they're looking is at your reviews. Now, more often than not, what I find with medical practices specifically is they may have reviews, but they never respond to them, whether they're positive or negative, and they don't realize the power that your reviews have over the reputation of people who aren't ever going to go to your website, to your social media, or get to know anything about you beyond that first Google page result. Now, is this everybody? No. Of course, there's still people that are going to be coming from referrals, but the world as we know it and the world that people, the way that people are making decisions about how they purchase, about healthcare, about all of the different things is evolving, and it's evolving quickly. And if you aren't evolving with it, you're going to get stuck behind. And unfortunately, your competitors are going to eat you for lunch. I want you to think about the places that you're not showing up effectively, that you could show up more effectively so that where your patients are looking, you're already there and they can find you. So what does this look like and how can you get started? Well, content still has a purpose, whether it's living on your website, which I highly recommend, or on local business listings, or also on social media, but the content has to be specific and it can't just be la-di-da all about us. And what I see very often with, especially specialty practices, and I don't want to pick on orthopedics too much, but I happen to be looking at them a lot because I was doing some analysis. And what they talk about most of the time on their websites are their doctors. I'm not saying there's anything wrong talking about your doctors, but people aren't looking for a specific doctor or wanting to know their story because that isn't helping them solve their problem. If you have a permanently swollen ankle, for example, you're not out looking for Dr. Joe Schmo and all of his credentials because you don't even know if that person is going to be able to solve your problem. What I would instead be looking for if I had an ankle that was having challenges and I was not going to my primary care physician is somebody that specializes in ankle pain and had an article that wrote about why your ankle swells and here's when to see a doctor and here's when not to see a doctor and here's when, a specialist needs to come in and here's when a specialist, you don't need to go to the specialist. Whatever that might be. And those articles are not hard to write. If you're listening to your patients and you're paying attention to the things they're asking you, when they come to see you or the comments that they're making, those are all things that you can have someone create content around, which means you have to communicate within your organization. And so paying attention to the situations that are arriving in your office regularly and then creating content around those situations is going to pull you into those search results even faster than you trying to pay your way in front of people with ads. The other piece of this that we talked about was reviews. One of the best things you can do for both Google and for not only increasing your credibility, but also increasing your reach is to respond to every review. And if it's a negative review, you need to some way, somehow reach out to that person. And if they truly are a patient, then you should be able to reach out to them and rectify the situation, or at least get their side and see if there's something that can be done. And if it isn't a real review, even more important to respond, because you can reach out to Google or whoever the review is with and say, this is not a patient. We'd like to have it removed, and go start going through that process. Thinking about reviews and having a process around review response and review generation, because getting new reviews is really important as well. If all your reviews are from 5 years ago, people are going to notice. They're going to be like, do these guys even exist anymore? Are they doing well? I mean, nobody's leaving them a review. So were they great 5 years ago and now they suck? They don't know, because there's no new reviews. The third thing you can do to make sure you're showing up in the right places is to make sure that all of your profiles across the web and industry wide are up to date. So many times I will go in and I'm looking at even professional profiles for professional organizations that people pay to be a part of, and there's no picture, there's no description, there's no information about what you do or how you do it. And people will look at those things. And not only that, more importantly, AI is pulling from all of those things. And so if your Google review hasn't, or your Google business page hasn't been updated ever, since you opened, do yourself a favor and go do some house cleaning over there, because that is a great way for you to start showing up in search results and ensure that AI is looking at you. And if you start doing that and your competitors aren't, guess who's going to start showing up closer to the top? Because you are active. Now, one thing that people don't understand about SEO and about the way that search works is that, and I tell people this all the time because I work with them on building websites and I've done this for years and years, is that Google will only return somewhere if there's new information published. So let's use your website, for example. If you're publishing a brand new website and you put it out there, Google's going to come and go, ooh, look at all this new candy we can look at and talk about. But if you never publish anything again, Google's not coming back. There's no reason for them to do that. There's no reason for them to come and search your website again. And so if you want them to come back, you have to supply additional information. And now, because of AI, you have to supply information that they're not receiving other places, that offers a different perspective, that answers really important questions, that is information that other people are searching for. Now, why would that be? Because that's how Google gets paid. When people are using their platform and they stay on it longer, just like YouTube and Facebook and all of these other entities that are out there that everyone's familiar with, the longer you stay, the more money they make. And so thinking about how you're going to put your practice out there and continue to put your practice out there in a way that incentivizes AI to come and look at your information again is really what you're aiming for. And then the last piece of this is when you're choosing your referral partners, you want to make sure that you have visibility on all of their online presence as well. And so if they have a website, you want to make sure that your organization is prominently featured or in some way called out by them as a partner, because otherwise people aren't going to realize the connection, and they're not going to come to your website. They're not going to seek you out. And so here's a perfect example. I had another situation with an orthopedic office who did not have an exclusivity clause in their contract, and they were providing services at local high school sporting events. And because there was no exclusivity clause in there, they were providing all the work, but the event space went ahead and took money from other organizations that were their direct competitors and allowed them to advertise and promote during the games. And so even though the one practice is the one donating all of their time and the doctors are donating their time to help the athletes if they get injured, nobody's thinking about them because their marketing materials are not being published and no one's telling them, hey, by the way, these are the doctors that are taking care of our team tonight. And so thinking about the way that you're setting up your referral partnerships and making sure that it's an equal give and take and that the people that you're partnering with are actually a good match to bring you in new patients is really going to go far. So ensuring that you iron out all those details and the right people are in the right room for those contract negotiations is really going to be critical. And so many times I see that the wrong people are negotiating those contracts and have no idea what they should actually look like and what the benefits should be for both sides of the aisle. And because they don't do that, one side gets the short end of the stick. So you want to look at those referral partnerships both online and offline and make sure that everybody's ducks are in a row and that everyone is being represented and that there's an equal flow back and forth of opportunities for both organizations. One of the best books that I read last year was Unreasonable Hospitality, written by Will Guidara. And Will Guidara was the owner of 11 Madison Park restaurant in New York City and is very well known for engineering moments of unexpected and unreasonable hospitality to his guests. And there are so many stories in that book that I could share. And the one that comes to mind most often when I'm sharing it with other people is when the German businessmen came into New York City and they were on their way to the airport. They decided to stop at 11 Madison Avenue and have their final meal before they went off to the airport and went home. And during that meal, they were enjoying themselves. They were having a really great time. And it came up in conversation. And one of the waiters heard the conversation. It went like this. We loved being in New York. This has been such a great meal. But the one thing we didn't get to do was try a New York hot dog. And so Will Guidara, being the brilliant restaurateur that he is, and his team aligning with that same brilliance, went outside to the local hot dog man, got a hot dog from New York, put it on a plate, divided it into three because there were 3 men at the table, and, added some condiments on the side and delivered it to the table as a very unexpected surprise. We wanted to make sure you didn't leave New York without trying a hot dog. And of course, these 3 businessmen were blown away, told everybody under the sun what had happened. And those moments are what set not only 11 Madison Park apart, but are opportunities for every business and every organization to do the same. And that is the opportunity you have with your online reputation before people ever get to know you. You have the ability and the opportunity to put those moments of unexpected delight in front of future patients, current patients, and even referral partners. And so I always want to leave you with a plan of how to get started and what you can do to ensure that you are putting your best foot forward and that you're thinking through ways to deliver a little bit of unreasonable hospitality in your own way. The first is go and Google your own practice, first of all, and see where you are and where you show up and what it looks like. And if it's not so good, then you got a little work to do. But think about how you would Google to find what it is your practice does. And you're going to have to go backwards because you're really close to it. And a lot of times that's hard to do when you're a part of the organization and you've been there for a while. You think about things in a very specific way. And a lot of times I get the question from organizations, what kind of experience do you have in this type of industry? And the reality is that it's almost better to not have somebody that's in your industry to come in and give you the outside perspective because they're going to tell you the truth. Whether you're ready to hear it or not is completely up to you. But having all the same sheep that you always hang around with that have the same viewpoint is not going to help you grow your business or attract new patients, because when you continue to do things the same way you always done them, you're going to continue to get the same results. And so when you're thinking about how to Google and how you're going to show up for people on Google, you need to put yourself in their shoes and take yourself out of take the organizational hat off and come in from a new perspective. And when you do that, what do you see? What sort of results are you finding for your organization? Are you even showing up? Because if you're not, again, you have some work to do. Then the next thing you can do is the next 5 new patients that come into your practice, ask them how they found you and how hard it was to find you and what made them come to you in lieu of someone else. You're going to learn a lot, even just by asking 5 people one of those questions. And when you listen to the explanation and ask a little bit more prodding questions, so if they say a friend, and you say, great, we like to reward people that refer us. Why did your friend refer us? Like, what did they say? And, whatever that might be, and document that information, because it's going to tell you a lot about the journey that new patients are coming from, and ensure that you can create unexpected delight along that journey for both the new patient, future patients, and your existing patients. And then the last piece of homework I have for you is to review your last 20 or so reviews or testimonials and see what they say. What are they consistently talking about? And some of it might not be so positive, but that again is an opportunity for growth. If the main complaint is we had to wait too long to see the doctor, again, there's a place to start for you to improve. And maybe it's not the doctor's fault. Maybe, delays can't be helped, but there are definitely things you can do to make that delay less intrusive to the patient. And so thinking through what is showing up in those reviews, what can we control and what can we improve on, is going to help you create, again, an opportunity to deliver an experience that they're not getting from Joe Schmo down the street, and an opportunity for them to share that story both online, offline, and drive more patients towards your practice. So if it would be helpful to you to have an outside perspective come in and show you how you're showing up online, offline, what's visible, what's not visible, and give you some suggestions on what to improve first, I have the opportunity to do that. With the link below this video, you can sign up for a free assessment. I do an online assessment for free, and then we have the opportunity to sit down and chat about that assessment. And I can tell you some of the things that I'm seeing from the outside perspective. If you'd like to do that, you can go to elisaconnor.com/assessment, and you just put in your name and a few other pieces of information, and then I reach out to you. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate you being here. If you found value from this episode, I would love for you to share it with a friend and hit the like button, because YouTube loves that, and so do I. In the meantime, I will plan on seeing you next week. Take care, be well, and I'll see you soon.